Welcome, Shireen. Welcome, King Techete. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. And we have topics every week, but the real purpose of why we're here is to help you in your career, whether you are starting off fresh out of college, or if you've been in the same industry for a long time and maybe the pandemic messed it up and you were looking at other options, or maybe you're with a company and you're looking at your relationships with your managers, your boss, the C-suite that you're presenting to. Anything career related is fair game. So there's a few ways that you can work with us here. One of the ways is if you can jump in on this Zoom link. That's the easiest way to work directly with me. And you can type your questions into the section if you're in a spot where you're not able to come on camera or come off mute. The other way that you can do is through LinkedIn Live. You can type your questions into the comment section. My lovely assistant, Jane Coletta, will make sure that I see those. We usually can get to those during this time. If not, we can connect offline. So again, this is Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time to help you develop in your career. Our topic this week is your gifts and your gaps. So we kind of built up to this when we were talking about negotiating and people wanting to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm worth. These are the gifts that I bring. So getting clarity about what your gift is one of the things, but then also to communicate your expectations about what you want to do, what some of your gaps might be. We all have areas that we're not the best in. I'm not the greatest with organization. I've learned a whole lot on how to be better organized, but I have no intention of being as diligent with organization as my assistant. So there's ways to communicate that when you're negotiating, when you're talking to somebody about a job, to be upfront about, hey, this is the stuff that really interests me. This is the stuff that isn't. So that's kind of how we came to this topic of your gifts and your gaps, how to communicate that in a way that builds relationship. So welcome B, good to see you on. I would love to open this up to anybody who is on Zoom or who's watching through LinkedIn Live. How can I serve you today? What questions do you have? What's on your heart? Again, it doesn't have to be about the topic of your gifts and your gaps. It can be any question that you have, something in negotiation, something just in how do I know that this is really what I want to be doing? Everything is on the table. Welcome everybody here. So how can I support you today? What questions do you have? No questions, no comments yet? Okay. Well, please do type into the chat section, or you can come off mute at any time. Part of the way this works is that people who are viewing in get value from what you're sharing. So you can feel free to jump in at any time. It's there's no correct order or something here. So one of the things that we focus on in this group is your career and purpose. And Dr. Gordon Medlock, who's often on Wednesdays with me, he underlines the way that we look at it, which is your career, whatever job you're doing, is simply a vessel or a pathway to help you become more who you can become. We've had a lot of people who over the years get to a point in their career where they're making good money, everything's kind of safe and secure, and yet they're not satisfied. What is that? What's that about? And at the heart of it is something that at Right Foundation we look at, we call the transformational imperative, which is we all want to learn and grow. Happiness studies show that, all the things that we think would make us happy, like a bigger house, etc., don't. And it looks like what really makes us happy is learning and growing. And so that's a huge deal in your job. This is something that you're doing, at least probably 40 hours, but honestly, probably more like 50 to 60 hours, sometimes 70, 80 hours a week. And so if you're spending that amount of time and you're not really sure why you're doing it, you're probably going to start to be dissatisfied. And a lot of times people will ask questions about how they know that the job is right for them. How to know if they should jump over to another job, another career line, all of that stuff. But we want to start with what you have right in front of you. Hello, SB, good to have you. And that is our approach. But I'm seeing a question coming in here. Thank you so much. Quintachete Jones, welcome. Do you think it's smart to continue? Yes, hey, good to have you on. Am I saying your name right?
Quintachet.
Quintachet.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Quintachet.
Thank you.
So tell me more what you mean. Do you think it's smart to continue education in an industry opposite from your current job? What's going on?
Well, from what I'm noticing, it's a lot of people who are in school for like social work, but they're like security guards.
Okay.
And it seemed like to me that being a security guard is what's, helping them maintain their lifestyle, but they're going to school for something, opposite. And I think that the passion that they have is not elaborated on enough because it's so simple. All you need is like a perk card, and you have to get registered for a gun in certain type of environments.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a security guard means you have the carrying techniques to protect people. And if that's, to me, because that's like boring, you're basically just signing in, signing out people sometimes, and then, you're just standing there or sitting. But people enjoy that. So I don't think that they should go into a field where they're hands on. You know what I'm saying?
So I want to know what's the importance of this for you personally?
Personally, because I'm into project management and currently I'm a youth care worker. I just received a youth care worker.
Okay.
I just received my postgraduate. And the reason I touch bases on this is because the position my current place of employment, I can transition. So I know that, when you're working in a certain industry, you want to be in a place where you can grow, which is most importantly.
So are you saying that you're in a place where you can grow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I'm in the field, that's pretty much opposite from what, I'm in school for now. Because right now I'm beginning to study to get my PMP. So,
what's a PMP?
It's project management.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're project management degree, and then you're planning to transition?
Yeah, within the company, it's in the near future.
In your company, are they aware that you're doing this?
Yes.
Well, it sounds like a great move for you.
Yes, but for people I want to be able to give them some type of advice on why you shouldn't do that if you cannot connect right away, because it's hard finding a job within your field if you don't hook up with internships and things of that nature. Sometimes it's hard. And then you want to be able to be comfortable in your role, in your position. And I think that's why doctors and lawyers have these processes before they actually become who they are, because it's a certain way that you have to relate to what you're doing. And if you can't really relate, how can you go into a field based on just hoping that you get a good salary.
So you're bringing up something that's, I think, a great point, Kina Shay. And the approach that, it's more than just networking.
Mhm.
Bringing up the point about intentionality, making sure that, there's the connections that are going to help get you there. But I'm going to kind of translate to a general theme that we touch on, which is how important your relationships are and how important networking is.
Yes.
Because you're talking about that, if you're going to make a career transition like that, and if you don't have the relationships, I think what I'm hearing you say is you want to let the people know who you're mentoring, who you're talking
Mhm.
to about this stuff, that if they're going to make a shift in their career like that, that it's not just going to work like magic. That the
Right.
stuff that helps it work like magic is them volunteering, perhaps, or at least developing relationships with people who would then hire them. For you, it works out because you've got those relationships. You're in conversation saying, hey, I'm getting this degree so that
Right.
I can be elevated to this position here. There's a need for that. That
Mhm.
there's a need for that project management there. So, you're in relationship with people developing that. But I would absolutely agree when you are, helping people look at their career choices, that having them understand that the most important thing is the relationships that they're building along the way. You can
Right.
you can get certification in something, and if nobody likes you, it doesn't really matter. Unless it's so.
Exactly, and it can be that hard.
Yep. Unless it's something where it's so specified and such a level of expertise needed, that then sure, maybe. But we're talking about 95% of humanity, which is no, work on the relationship, develop the relationships with the people around you, ask what they need,
Mhm.
they'll give you the input. So great point, Kina Shay. Is this helpful, Kina Shay?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because now I can have something to say. I can say build relationships. Because I really didn't have the correct terms, but I knew that in order for you to grow, you have to build trust also. Certain positions you have to be able to have people trust you.
Yep.
And for the transition, from this to that, and you have no connection, I think that's almost like a waste of time. But I don't want to discourage a person into, because they may fall into something, but that's like a 80-20 chance that you
Yep.
fall into something, depending on your career.
No, it's
Even as a
probably
pastry chef, you have to
probably
network.
probably even less of a chance than that.
Yep.
So you know what, and I'm going to share a resource that if you take a look at it, it will certainly, it helps everybody. And it's something you could share with them. If the timing of it doesn't work, you can always review the recording. But we
Okay.
have a rules of engagement evening workshop coming up where we go a lot deeper into how to develop relationships and how, especially in working through sometimes sticky conversations or things I'm uncomfortable talking about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
thank you, Jane. Yes, the rules of engagement, 7 paths for powerful communication. And you'll get deeper into it, but one is accentuating the positive, 2, minimizing the negative, and then a
Mm-hmm.
big one is nobody gets more than 50% of the blame. And so you'll learn more about how that ties into interacting with people, as you're negotiating salary, as you're working on developing relationships.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that will be helpful. This conversation was helpful because now I know what to include when we have these
Awesome.
conversations.
Yeah, and share this link with them, Kina Shay.
Okay.
Yeah, let people know. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. We take this content, we post it on YouTube because it's a hell of a lot easier to find on YouTube than LinkedIn. And we have a variety of other programs and pathways for people to take next steps if they're getting value from this. So we're in the process of creating a app that will help with conversations. So whether you're negotiating, whether you're interviewing, that's going to be about 3 or 4 months out from this point on. But keep coming back and keep sharing this.
Okay, cool.
You bet. Welcome everybody. I'm going to do a quick room reset here. So we're looking at how to talk about your gifts, your gaps, but ultimately, I think at the heart of it, what we're getting to is networking as being so important for your career. And is your job, is the position that you're in helping you become who you can become? Doesn't always mean, am I enjoying it? Sometimes when I get up against something I'm not good at, when I come up against a challenging spot in my career, kind of like with this app thing, do I really want to create an app? I don't know. I'm choosing to do it because I think it's the right thing to do. And it's kind of taking me into learning a whole bunch of new things, and it's totally challenging, but I do get a sense of purpose from it. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, it's going to serve people. It's going to help connect people and broaden kind of the ways that I can influence and touch people. So that feels good to me. That's something I value. I value people getting more satisfied in their conversations, etc. So it's not always going to be, you know, quote unquote, do I like it? But is it getting clear on what your values are will end up helping you get more satisfaction in your career. So wanted to share that. Again, for folks who are joining on LinkedIn Live, we're just jumping on here. You can join into the Zoom link. That's going to be the way that you can communicate with me directly. If you can't do that, you can type your questions into the comment section on LinkedIn, and Jane Coletta will get those over to us. But with that said, I'd love to check in with, we got 2 Beths on, Beth or Brokja. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're going to have to come off mute and tell me how not to butcher your name. We got SB and we got Beth. I know, good to see you, Beth. And Shireen, welcome. So how can I serve you today? How can we as a group serve you today? You're welcome to type your questions into the chat or come off mute.
Hi, George.
Hey, Beth, good to see you.
Really good to see you too. I'm happy to be part of this discussion, and I decided today would be a good day to just participate. Because I know that I've listened in a lot and gleaned a lot from your guests, and so if there's anything I can do to contribute and give back to the rest of the group, I'm happy to do so. And it's funny because I was just kind of reaching out to part of my network today and letting them know kind of what I'm up to, and that was the exact, that was where we left the conversation. Was the next time we talk, I want to talk about your gifts and your gaps.
Whoa.
And that's what that person said to me. It's like such a coincidence.
Whoa. So what are you getting about, what are you planning on saying?
Well, that's a good question. It's not something I'm not sure I'm ready to broadcast, but it is. It's certainly an awesome question because I think it's important to really zero in on that so that I'm positioning myself to succeed. So the gifts, right off the bat, my really easy gift for me is I'm great at connecting the dots, and I love to play that game. So, and the dots would be people. So I love to meet people. I love to discover who they are, where they're from, what they do, what's their mission, and then connecting them with somebody else who would have a vested interest.
Yep. That's a pretty big gift there. Some people do not see that or don't even think about connecting people and how much value that can bring. So how would you share? So one of my brags around this is I made an introduction from somebody I went to college, no, not even, I was in high school with. And I knew that they moved to LA, and a friend of mine from Chicago to LA. And I introduced them completely on a whim. And I just was like, I think they like each other. And I introduced them, and they ended up doing a really big deal together. And since that time have been like very grateful to me, reach out to me, like send me cards and stuff. All I did was just say, oh, these two people should talk.
Yeah.
And so the value that I created for both of them simply by an introduction. So how would you share about yourself in a way that people would really get that value for them, they can place it?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'll think about that. And I don't know that I meant to say like that I'm like a matchmaker type, but more so like if I'm a part of a mission or an organization, such as in, you know, a national sales role as I have been, I look for the why in others so that we can come to like a common, you know, goal or you know, connect on that level. What's your why, and how can we get there together, kind of thing. So connecting with people, and not necessarily in a matchmaker fashion, although that is something that I can do, but I didn't mean to limit it to that.
Got you. Okay. No, so that's great. So say more about how you find a why, how you find somebody's why.
It's I've done some personality testing, and something that I've found is like kind of a superpower for me is being like curious and empathetic. And so like I just ask questions and I really want to know the answer, and I somehow can connect to the person on, you know, whatever their answer is, or if I can't, I ask more questions to really try to get it and understand, where are you coming from? What drives you to say that or want that, you know? So asking questions like that just out of a genuine curiosity.
So that's the pathway is asking questions.
I think so.
How would you, how is that meaningful for?
I'm sorry, you cut out. What do you mean? Well, you said, how is that meaningful? What?
How is finding out what people's why is, how is that meaningful for you?
Well, because that's how you can connect to the possibility of being able to serve that mission or goal or drive that they have. Understanding it, their why, or you know, their, you know, what's behind what they're doing in life, and what do they seek, you know, coming next.
And so what are you getting about your gifts?
Just that I like to have conversations that are centered on what's next, where we've been, how can we leverage what we're doing right now, what's important to us to get to where we want to go and solve this problem or that problem, or, you know, create something, you know, that would be a service to others, or, you know, meet certain goals that we want to meet.
So that sounds great. And one of the things I'm hearing is that you genuinely want to serve people. That you know, makes your heart sing.
Yes, serve people, connect people, and help us to get to the next level and of, you know, success as a group.
So even if you didn't come to a conclusion with somebody, let's say that there was just too many challenges or blocks to get to whatever the quote unquote sale is, but that you would leave that relationship well, or that you might not come, let's say you're developing a relationship with somebody and you get to a point where it's just like, oh, we just have too many blocks, or we can't do this because there's not enough money, or there's not enough blah, 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 or whatever, that at the end of it, you maintain the relationship.
Oh, absolutely. I think that walking away from a conversation like that empowers both people, as long as, you're asking the right questions. And, it's an empowering type of conversation, whether you end up discovering you're going to make a connection, long term, or it's not the right time. Either way, it's empowering, I think. Yeah.
So Beth, are you getting any clarity on your gifts from this conversation?
I am. Thank you very much. This is good practice while I'm, looking at how I'm going to elevate and level up in my career, but also just expand as a leader.
Cool. So now,
thank you.
If you're, you said that you didn't want to get into the gaps, so we're not going to do that. But the thing to look for to help highlight that is when you're in that conversation with somebody, or conversations like that, is what are the things that derail? What are the things that derail?
Yeah, I think just it's interesting to think that I just might be at a point where it's helpful to have somebody else who's like a mentor, or I wouldn't call them an assistant. It would be like not a mentor or a mentee, somebody who is working with me on something and can fill in some of those gaps. And that's
oh yeah,
that's how that kind of relationship and building is, working with other people who fill in those gaps for you.
Yep. Yeah, great point. That does speak to the beauty of being an imperfect person, is that it really points out that we need each other.
Yeah.
And I remember what was that, the Twilight Zone show, where this one guy gets everything he wants. He's like perfect. He just gets everything he wants. And what he didn't realize was that he had died. And he's in this place where he just can get everything he wants. And he gets really sick of it because he wants a challenge. He wants to be able to learn and grow. And so he goes to the angel and he says, okay, I want to try out the other place, meaning hell. Mm-hmm. And the angel says, oh, no, you're in the other place. Mm-hmm. And being like, oh my gosh, if I were just completely 100% kick ass at everything and didn't need anybody's help and could do everything myself, well, I would be incredibly alone. And mm-hmm. So it's just kind of a flip on, I like to look at my limitations and gaps that way as, oh, wow, this is actually a way for me to connect with people, as opposed to, I have to become the best at this before I have the right to even ask for help. I have to totally abuse myself into, doing better at this, but to say, hey, I need help with this. But mm-hmm. that's the gaps, and it's sensitive stuff. So,
well, does it have to be? I mean, it's just that's where that conversation about vulnerabilities and just being okay with that comes into play. But in a sense, when you're selling yourself, I mean, it's important to know what they are, but it's also we don't tend to spend a lot of time on those in those conversations.
Yeah.
But totally. It's important. Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, Beth, let me know if there's more that we can discuss that would be helpful. But I want to jump to a question in the chat and reset the room. So welcome everybody who's jumped on. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday from noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. We take this recording and post it on YouTube so that you can review that. It's easier to find on YouTube than it is on LinkedIn. Things we have in development. We are working on a career app. Definitely still looking for a name for it. And in fact, I wouldn't mind any suggestions, whether it should be something called like interview coach or conversation coach or something like that. The heart of the app is kind of what we do here is how to deepen relationships, but with specifically around so it can help people in the interview process, etc. So that's just some info. The way that you can participate here is we love it when you jump in on Zoom. You can work with me directly, ask your questions over voice and camera, or you can type questions into the chat. If you can't jump in on Zoom, you can type your questions into the comments section, which is where I'm going to go right now. So we've got a question from Lisa Thomas. Quick question on motivation. How does one keep motivated for a job search or to ask for new challenges, resources when they might lead to rejection? If you had only a few words or paragraph to describe how that works, what would it be? Okay. Oh, nice, Beth. The heart of the interview. Okay. I like that one. So on motivation, there's not a super simple answer to this, Lisa. One of the things that we've found, and one reason why we have this career group, is people that I'm working with one-to-one, and when they're using a course where they're going through step-by-step processes that help them identify the companies and work for, et cetera. There's actually really something important about a group and getting the sense that you're not alone, that there's other people working on their career just like you. There's a whole lot of neuroscience research behind it, and just kind of ancient wisdom that making connections helps you progress. We go way back to how human beings kind of evolved. We found that as we stayed in groups, I'll take it back. I don't know how true this is, but I love the story, so I'm going to just say it. I was talking to this metalhead drummer one time, and he was like, "Yeah, metal, like the drum, like this music, this what it is it goes way back to when we're a bunch of people out, exposed to the elements and big animals that want to eat us, and we make a fire, we beat a drum around that fire, and we dance. And to the animal, we look like a giant animal, and we have this huge heartbeat that terrifies away the lions and the whatever else." And so if you trace back our development as a species, being in groups is how we've evolved. And so one of the most fundamental things, Lisa, is when you're lacking motivation, when things are challenging, as much as I might not want to reach out, it will tend to help. It will, there's studies with this around depression, that just being around people, will help move through things. So asking for new challenges, again, kind of like what Kineshe was sharing, when looking for the next steps, talking to people about it, talking to people in your network, talking to people at your company. Those conversations will help your brain awaken to more possibilities that you haven't been seeing. Yeah, you'll have to also acknowledge the fact that you probably had limiting thinking and that there's more possible to you than you might have expected, but that's just part of it. So that's way more than a few words, but I kind of liked your question, Lisa, so thank you. I hope that helped. If you're listening in, let us know. Welcome, Shireen, good to see you.
Hey, I wanted to, I just want to say that I came as the employer. And I like this conversation, the last one, especially about how do people stay motivated or ask for more in their jobs to keep them more interested. And as an employer, I have the same question. Creative ways or ways to approach them and ask them whether or not they are challenged or excited about what they're doing, or finding out if they can handle more, without guessing. And so I'm listening to it from your perspective of people that are looking for jobs, but also as the person that wants to keep their employees happy.
Yes, no, this is an incredibly important question, especially when you look at the Great Resignation and people leaving, and it's not indicators are not, it's not always money. that sometimes people are being paid just fine and they leave anyway. So there
Yeah.
is this sense of purpose and ability to know that they are making an impact.
Right. Well, I've got 3 new people that are starting this week, and I want to really open the doors differently with them, and I want them to feel very comfortable with being open and honest and telling me, how they're feeling about whatever tasks or jobs they are doing, and making sure that they're happy, and kind of makes me nervous
Yeah.
to open those doors of vulnerability or even playedness, like to to care enough that they're happy. They're not robots, they're not here. I want to be in relationship with them.
Well, what have you done so far?
Well, I've only gone through the interviewing process so far. They haven't actually physically been here and started. And this week they're coming to check it out and work with me just a little bit to make sure that it's a good vibe for both of us. One of them has a second interview and tomorrow, and the other one's coming to work tomorrow just to see the place, and the other one's starting over the weekend. But the one on the weekend we're in communication, and she could be making a relocation to work for me. And so we're going to start on the weekends only, just to make sure that we're both happy. So that, I'm just nervous. Like I have so much excitement about possibilities, but I don't want to make stuff up in my head. I don't want to read things that aren't there. I just really think I need to stay in rapport with them without being, I'm going to use the weird, but without being too weird about it.
Well, what does staying in rapport with them look like to you?
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I came on to listen to what other people were saying on here, just to get more indication of what people for jobs are looking for.
So,
and listen to some of the discussions, because that would give me some insight as to what job seekers are wanting to find in their job place. So for me in rapport, I'm not sure.
I have an idea.
I suppose just exposing myself a little.
yeah, Beth, go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Shireen.
Hi, Shireen. I'm Beth.
Hi,
I
Beth.
was I'm listening to you and totally understanding, or just like just feeling that you really want to empower these people to be successful with you and on your team, and that rapport is a really important part of that success. And so it just takes me back to that conversation I was just having with George about discovering people's why and like what drives them, like what would make them feel either empowered or as if they're getting to where they want to be in a year from now or 2 years from now. Like what is their driving force? Like what do they want out of this job, out of life? That I think is a really good place to build rapport with your employees.
Yeah, exactly.
Empowerment conversation.
And I think that's a really and it's a skill to tease that out of people, so to speak, or to create the environment where they can share. So Shireen, we both know Dr. Bob Wright fairly well. And there's times where my boss will ask me what I want. And in that moment, I'm kind of like a deer in headlights.
Right.
And so it might take me some time to kind of settle in and be like, somebody actually gives cares about me in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And it might take some time to do that. The other thing that I think is important to talk about here too is you being clear about what your expectations are. And so it's a both and. So there's what are they getting out of it? But when coaching people who are going, working for somebody, I'll often ask, well, have you asked them, like, what are the 3 most important things to you? And for them to know what the 3 most important things to you or 5 most important things to you are. And so that
I mean, to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that's a good idea. That way they're clear what my expectations are.
because they want to make you happy.
Right.
On some level, and one of the things I did when I was hiring for the AV department was I knew I was hiring people that were way smarter than me and had gone to school for things specifically that I didn't understand. And so I would say, look, I've developed systems and things here that I know I've hacked together. I know I am not doing things as well as I could. So part of your job here is to
Right.
help me improve things. And you might have to tell me 3 to 10 times, and you might have to tell me in kind of different ways, because I might be thinking about something else. I might be kind of pig-headed in the moment. But I want you to know that I'm not gonna hold it against you.
Right.
Our primary thing here is we need to have this department function better in these ways. We currently have these problems and we need to grow in this kind of way. And I might be a bit of a block to you. And I want you to know it's okay for you to tell me that.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody's going to say that, but for you to be able to set kind of those boundaries and things, and then know, like I had one guy, because I knew his personality style, I knew he was just going to tell me what I was doing wrong. It was great. Then I knew I had another guy who was going to be more indirect about it. And so I kind of knew, okay, he's going to be leaving me little examples of things. And so it's really a dance. And but that thing of, and then learning to get to their why. Beth could probably walk you through the ways that she does that with people in conversations, because it's about the relationship and creating a sense of security and that you're really interested in that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is then watching my hunger needs in it, and where, especially as a boss, where I can blur the lines sometimes, and it's not always the greatest thing to do. And so kind of establishing, I don't know, I'm just going to throw that out there and see how that lands, Shireen.
Thank you. And I'm coming back, but I have to go this second. I'll come back.
Gotcha. Thank you. These are juicy. Oh, start with why. Yes, Simon Sinek. Yeah. Good stuff there. And that the why is like the purpose, like, why am I here?
Well, I would add that as an employer, you have a platform to lead and to demonstrate, leadership, and to then create other leaders. And so I think that that's what that kind of sentiment is about. When you're starting with why, you're sort of, what's your driving force, you're sharing that, and then you're finding out what your people's driving force is as well, because then you can have a shared goal, shared conversation, mindset and vision together, and that that you're looking out for each other's driving force or each other's why.
Yeah. So Beth, to circle back to you, can you give us 1 to 3 sentences on your gifts?
That's good. So that is a skill to develop right now, so that I can do it in 3 sentences. And then also the skill that I need to develop is how to talk about, the gaps. So, okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. I got to think about it. Can I get back to you? Please?
Yep, totally,
Okay.
totally.
Thank you.
So thank you, Beth. I'm gonna do a quick room reset. Welcome everybody who's just joining in through LinkedIn Live. You're coming in towards the tail end of this. You can, and actually, Jane, we should put the link to the YouTube video in the comments section afterwards to make sure that people who are jumping on now can catch it. So you can find the beginning of this on YouTube, sometimes easier than on LinkedIn. But we are here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. to help you develop in your career. We have various topics that we touch upon, but really we want your questions. We want to invite you to share what you're working on. And that helps a lot of people learn vicariously who are watching in through this. So please know any questions that you have, anything on your heart, there's no question too big, no question too small. Sometimes we'll work on a question over a series of career labs to help people get to what they really want. This process of one-to-one coaching, using a process that works like what we have in Revitalize Your Career, and group facilitation, this works. We've helped a lot of people go into their next job and we've had people say things like, oh my gosh, I'm in, later in my career and I'm more excited now about this new opportunity than I've ever been about going into something. So that's the vision. So referring back to Beth, our why, and getting to the why of this group, the purpose of this is so that you are more satisfied in your career, perhaps than you've ever been. And that's the value that we hold. That's what we hold up here. That's our North Star. So that's what we're driving towards. And all of your questions fit inside of that. Our job is to help you become who you can become through your career. So all that said, I'd love to open it up for any more questions. You can type your questions into the chat here in Zoom or into the comments section on LinkedIn Live, or if possible, jump on in here in this meeting and speak with me directly if you can. Questions from Kina Shea, Lance, good to have you, Lance. SB, Terry. SB, any follow-up from last week that you're looking for words of wisdom in how you effectively stay in the game when you know you're going to leave? Oh, such a good question. I'm so glad you asked that. Everybody listen up. This is so important. Oh, thank you for that question. It's a challenge because or even if you don't know, but you're like 90% sure that you're on your way out. What you want to do is use the transition to something else, to the next career opportunity, going into business on your own, whatever it is. You want to use the time that you have left with that company, or let's say it's your own business and you're going to go work somewhere else. You want to gather a lot of data about how you've done. What did you look at it like? Let's say that you're moving from one company to another. You're going to look at the position you've had at that company, and you're going to look at it like it was a paid college course. What were the components of that course? What did you do well? Where would you grade yourself? Give yourself an A, give yourself a B, give yourself an F. Say, wow, I just didn't even get into that part of this course. Look at your position in that company like it's a course. Go through it. This might be a great thing to work with a coach on. Have them ask you questions about it so you can be thinking in this way. And then start addressing that stuff at that company on your way out. If there's anything that you can look at in that company, and of course all relationships tie into this. Sometimes it's going to make sense for you to be open about your transition. Sometimes it's not. But if you can be open about it, that's great. And be able to say, here's the things I think I did really well here. Here's the stuff I didn't even really get into. in my time left here, what am I going to close out well? How am I going to get to, let's say it's 1 month, what am I going to do in this final month here that's going to feel really good to me as I move on to the next thing, so that I'm closing out here and proud of how I closed out here. And this is uncomfortable. It will often be uncomfortable, because I might get to look at the areas of my position that I avoided, things I sloughed off on everybody else. I might look at things that I did really well and didn't take credit for, or didn't share, gifts that I had that I didn't really say, hey, this is so important what I'm doing here. And I'm telling you this because, as I'm transitioning, we need to have a plan for how this is going to be handled. So great question. I'm so glad you're asking it. I'm going to take a pause and see if anybody wants to share anything about how this might relate to you, or add anything to this. No, okay. Just checking in. This is a big deal. I just worked with somebody who didn't transition well. And I don't know if it's true or not, but let's just say karma exists. And the chances that it will circle back around in her new company are pretty huge. If I have unfinished business with a boss or with a coworker or something, that unfinished business is probably going to come up in the next position. It's like that I don't know, that image of a chain link fence that says, what's the one thing in common with all your broken relationships? You. And so in a career transition, it is a great time to take stock of what actually is. Great. Okay. It looks like you like that thought process. It's going to be really good to do that with a coach or with a mentor or something who can ask questions to help tease out more.
Yeah, leaving the place where you are better than you found it is probably a good rule.
Yes. And sometimes that's even just pointing out the things that didn't work. Because the cultures have all, everybody has kind of dirty deals about how things are done. And so if you can just say, hey, in this transition, I think it's really important for you to know that these are some of the big gaps I see here. And I think they need to be addressed. And anything you want to hear from me to help address these gaps, I'm happy to share with you. And I'm happy to have a conversation a month after I leave if you want to get some more information from me. That can be helpful.
Maintaining the relationship.
Yes. And what did they do that was not good? So what they did that wasn't good was essentially she had set up the relationship in the company where she was incredibly skilled at systems and able to implement new systems that solved a lot of problems. And they were very grateful to have her, although they didn't really give her credit, and the boss kind of took credit for stuff, which, bosses are going to do. But when they left, not everything was complete. And they had a brilliant idea about how to improve systems at the company. And instead of them saying, hey, if you'd like to keep me on for a period of time longer than we had agreed upon, and pay me this or pay me as a consultant, they woke up to how hurt they had been at that company and how much they had experienced themselves as being taken advantage of. And they just stepped away and said, basically, screw you, figure it out on your own. And, you know, they, you know, quote unquote, had every right to do that. But it probably wasn't the best move. Even if they had just set up, you know, a consulting agreement for another month or two, probably would have been a better move. So that was the thing. Just good question.
I do.
So we got a question: how to stay motivated when you are networking and not getting enough response? Great question. That was we touched base on that a little earlier too. One of the things, the biggest thing is connecting. That I know of. The quick, broad stroke answer to staying motivated is connecting with people, and that is one of the reasons we have this career group. Hey,
Yeah.
good to see you, Terry.
Connecting with people that you don't, you mean like reaching out and which is what you're trying to do, what I'm trying to do right now. But you mean, I guess I need more clarification when you say.
Got it. So there's people, I have lists of people, like literally Excel spreadsheets and also in my head, there's people that I can connect with that I know I'm just going to feel good and loved after connecting with them. My best friend since I was 10 years old, we don't agree on all kinds of things, but I know that when I'm really hurt or challenged with something, that I can call him and he's gonna like me. And that's kind of all, like that just helps. If I'm really down, if I'm at those moments where I'm like praying to God, please God, just take me off this planet. I can reach out to him and I'm probably going to feel, you know, a millimeter better, which at those points is something.
Yeah,
So,
I've done that. I've done that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that kind of connecting. Then there's the other, another kind of connecting, which is, how can you help me develop in what I'm doing? So for me, as a coach who's developing my business, etc., there's people who will help me work on proposals or give me ideas that I can bounce ideas off of and say, oh, have you tried this? Or, oh, you're really good at this. Did you know that? And did you put that as a value add in your proposal? Or that, are you sharing that about yourself? So people who are going to give me that kind of valuable feedback as
Okay.
I'm connecting with people. Then there's the people who can give you leads. If you're in a job search, who are going to say to you, you know what, have you checked out this company? Have you talked to so-and-so? Why don't you try sending them your resume or making some contact there, and I'll see if I can make an introduction for you. Then that's another kind. And oftentimes, Terry, you're going to want to build to those. Like if I'm not doing well internally, I'm going to call my friend and just get the momentum going.
Okay.
And so it's all levels of it, but to make it really simple is pick up the phone and call somebody. And that just, if I'm really in a rut, that's and I'm not going to be thinking clearly about all kinds of things, just picking up the phone and calling somebody gets me moving. And we do this at the Right Foundation, where there's people, it's a normal thing for me to do, to text somebody and say, hey, I'm just pepping into your voicemail. Pepping is jargon for something, which basically means I'm coaching myself by leaving a message. I'm literally just using the fact that I know you. I don't even need you to send a response. I'm just talking out loud, and me picturing you listening to me is helping me think out loud. Now this you know, you can try that out for sure. You can certainly try that out with me and see if
Okay.
that helps.
Okay.
I do it with people. It might be a skill to develop, but check it out. Oh, we're at 1 o'clock.
Oh my.
Well,
Thank you.
I gotta go, but good to see all of you. Check out the rules of engagement workshop. That helps so much with negotiations and deepening relationships of any kind. And join us again next week, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. So good to have you all on here.